Government will not qualify to be a government in the real sense of the term. Secondly, administration of justice constitute the very foundation of any civilized society. If any society has failed to develop, any system, processes, methods, or the legal principles in the light of which the settlement has to take place between, or dispute has to be settled between two individuals, groups, or communities, then that society cannot sustain itself for long.
So, administration of justice. Administration of justice is one of the defining functions, one of the defining features of any government or state. It means if a government is not capable of administering justice properly in keeping with the established principles or value system of the society, laws, rules, regulations, that government will not qualify to be a government in the real sense of the term. Secondly, administration of justice constitute the very foundation of any civilized society. If any society has failed to develop, any system, processes, methods, or the legal principles in the light of which the settlement has to take place between, or dispute has to be settled between two individuals, groups, or communities, then that society cannot sustain itself for long. It may lead to unending series of conflict and friction and the violence. So all such things will take place. Centrifugality or centrifugal tendencies will become very much active in that society. So therefore, when we think of administration of justice, it is something that provides stability to the government and polity, and then it provides stability or constitute the very backbone of any civilized society. If it is not being done, it means we are heading towards an unending series of conflict and friction. So therefore, in all civilized societies, whatever be the nature, whether it is whether you have monarchical form of polity of ancient or medieval period, or democratic form of polity, you have a warfare state or welfare state, but some kind of means and mechanism is required to be developed for the administration of justice. There has to be an element of regularity, discipline, and predictability in the behavior of administration towards the society, and in the behavior of individuals and groups towards other individuals and groups. There has to be some kind of stability, some kind of regularity, some kind of predictability. Otherwise, we cannot think of a stable society. One more thing, that every society, it is a part of our collective behavior. Naturally, we are ordained to look for systematization of things, regularization of things. It means the collective behavior of any group, any community or society is generally found to be motivated by the necessity to bring the things on the path of regularity and discipline, predictability. Nobody would like to explore new ways and means to settle the disputes, or new principles, to tackle one other kind of problems. So generally, in most of the societies, it happens naturally that we develop certain principles of law. We develop certain rules and regulations in keeping with the value system of the society to provide for the mutual rights and obligations between individuals or the groups or communities, so that the behavior becomes predictable and one could live, or we could live, or the people in society could live peacefully with due stability, regularity, and discipline. So administration of justice is extremely important. It's important. It constitutes the very foundation of society and government. Clear? In broader context, if you see administration of justice, generally we think that administration of justice, which is concerned, we think that administration of justice is mainly concerned with judiciary and judges. But that's not true. All those, in the broader context, all those positions of authority wherefrom some kind of goods and services are to be delivered by a select group of individuals, all such positions constitute the position of judgment, that position wherefrom justice has to be delivered. So whether you are a member of executive wing of the government, you are a bureaucrat or civil servant, or you are a part of the legislature, or for that matter judiciary, whosoever is sitting in the position of authority, and he or she is supposed to deliver some kind of goods and services in keeping with established principles, in keeping with some law, rules, regulations, you are supposed to behave like that. The extent to which you deviate, the extent to which that person sitting in the position of authority. The extent you deviate from the established path, rules, regulation, or laws, or for that matter, while remaining within the bounds of law, you exercise your discretion in wrongful manner. You exercise your discretion within the bounds of law in wrongful manner, inspired more by your narrow personal interest or personal aggrandizement. To that extent, you end up doing injustice. So therefore, administration of justice in broader context is a kind of collective enterprise which involves all those who are sitting in the position of judgment, those who are sitting in the position of authority, and they are expected and they are under legal or moral obligation to behave in a particular manner and to reflect reasonableness and fairness in their treatment which they which they give to the society, individuals or groups. Every single act of corruption involves an element of injustice. So therefore, those who are sitting in the position of authority, they are supposed to discharge their responsibilities with due reasonableness and fairness in appropriate manner. Then only they can claim that they have done justice to the individuals, groups, and society. Administration of justice. Now, as I said, that administration of justice is a very broad concept. It involves actions of the members of the three wings of the government, different institutions, agencies. All are involved in the process of administration of justice in broader sense. But in very specific terms, when we talk about administration of justice, things become clear when we break this expression: administration and justice. Administration means management of affairs. All of us know, although I am not going to deal with the very specific meaning of administration in keeping with the collective thoughts and ideas of the scholars of public administration. Just in common parlance, when we use the word administration, it is like management of affairs. And justice means to do what is right, what is fair, what is reasonable in the given situation, obviously within the bounds of established laws. So administration and justice invariably, necessarily, it carries the attributes of reasonableness and fairness. And that reasonableness and fairness may be explained under the law or within the bounds of law. The person who is supposed to do justice, that person may be expected to reflect that reasonableness and fairness in the application of his knowledge and wisdom. So it is well within the bounds of some kind of principles, within the bounds of some kind of law. So administration means management of affairs. What kind of management? Management of institutions, management of processes, techniques, tools, technology, all put together. Why? For what? Administration means management of affairs, management of institutions, management of processes, process of exercise of authority, management of tool, technique, method, process, technology, all put together. For what? To ensure that justice is done. How? Justice is done through the proper enforcement of law. So when we talk about administration of justice, we are talking about management of institutions, the process for the exercise of authority or rules, regulation, tool, technology, method, all put together to ensure that what is fair and what is reasonable, what is right is done under established laws and the principles. So administration of justice. What is reasonable, what is fair, and what is right, it has to be done. How? Through the enforcement of law. How the law has to be enforced properly? By the management of affairs. So administration of justice. Administration of justice, no doubt, it constitutes, as I discussed, it constitutes the very foundation of any civilized society. So every society over a period of time, quite naturally, every society tends to develop institutions, tend to develop some kind of legal principles, tend to develop some kind of rules, regulations, the protocols, and many things by which administration of justice has to be done, by which the disputes are to be settled, by which mutual claims over something, claims, rights, and obligations between individuals, groups, and communities are required to be enforced. If it is done, then only society will be stable and party will be stable, and the process goes on and on. But one more thing that is important, that one thing that is important in administration of justice, that administration of justice is done within the bounds of law. And law is given to the society by people themselves. I am talking about democracy. So every law is an in symbol of collective wisdom of the society, although it is expressed through their representatives. But a law carries the consensual strength and weight of the society at large. Within the bounds of this law, the justice is delivered. So the law is given by the society, and society is constantly evolving. Society never remains stable, and that's why the law or the legal system is also required to be changed from time to time, because every law has a context of time and place. In a given period of time, to deal with certain situation, to deal with certain subject matters, the society, through the representatives, the context of democracy, society apply its collective wisdom, and then law is enacted. But that law may be good for today, but may not be so good, or sometimes it becomes totally irrelevant after some time, because again the society has undergone changes keep taking place. So what is so much relevant and appropriate today, it may not be equally relevant tomorrow. So therefore the law, the legal system is required to be amended. And similarly the administrative system, or I would say administration, that means management, that institutions also need to undergo some kind of amendment, some kind of changes and reforms. So you need to bring desirable changes in the legal system in sync with contemporary realities. And similarly, institutions and agencies, they also need to do something. They need to improve, the way and the manner, the rules and procedures which they follow for the enforcement of law or for the administration of justice. So overall administration of justice, what I mean to say, it becomes a dynamic concept. So if the legal system of the country or the administrative institutions responsible for the enforcement of law, if they do not undergo amendments or changes or reforms from time to time, to that extent it leads to friction between the institutions of government on the one hand and society on the other. If society is moving very fast, evolving very fast, then the administrative system, administration of justice, including legal principles, law, legal system, and then institution, they also need to change with the same pace. Then only that synchronization is achieved. So administration of justice is a dynamic concept. So administration of justice in totality, it means the management of institutions, then the processes of exercise of processes pertaining to exercise of authority. So management of affairs like management of institutions, process of exercise of authority, rules, regulations, tools and technology. Why? To ensure that the society is given a fair treatment. Individuals, groups and communities, they are given what they deserve, to get from the government. So justice is done. So law is properly enforced. It can be enforced only when institutions are doing what they are supposed to do. This is administration of justice. So management of affairs, including system, processes, tools, techniques, technology, and all put together for what? To do what is right, fair, and reasonable. So what is right and what is fair and what is reasonable has to be done, but it's not so easy. For that, you're required to maintain this system by applying appropriate laws, rules, and principles in the given context so as to protect the rights of individuals, groups, and to punish the wrongdoers. So justice means doing right things, doing what is fair, what is reasonable, to punish those who are the wrongdoers, and to protect the interest of those who are innocent. They have not done anything wrong, and you protect their rights. But all such things can be done on sustained basis only when you manage the system and the processes, rules, regulation, technology well. So administration in furtherance of the cause of justice. Administration of justice. Administration of justice is about management of system and processes through which laws are enforced and disputes are settled in a society. One is clear. So administrative justice, I have so many times I have discussed it. So management of the system and the processes, and how does the system work? The application of legal principles. Whenever any subject matter of dispute comes, the first thing that we apply the legal principles, then you investigate the subject matter, that is investigation of alleged violations, and then the findings, investigation, finding of the investigation, and accordingly the evidences which are collected. On the basis of that, it involves imposition of sanctions, or it involves providing remedies to the victim. So it was the imposition of sanctions and deliverance of remedies if there has been violation of law. So this is about administration of justice. Administration is very simple. Just focus on the word administration, take, and then the justice. Reasonable, what is reasonable and what is fair. It is about how a government keeps things fair and right. It is about how government keeps things fair and right, how the government has managed. Administration of justice can be said to have can be said to have been accomplished by the government. When and how? When the government has been able to manage institutions and to ensure that authority is exercised in such a way that it is capable of enforcing laws. It is capable of enforcing laws with due effect, to do what is right, what is reasonable, okay, and to catch hold of the wrongdoers and to punish them. So it is about how a government keeps things fair and right between itself and citizens, and then among citizens, by making use of its authority through institutions and processes with due efficiency, effectiveness, and impartiality. So this is about how a government keeps things fair and right. This is a kind of challenge, because keeping the things fair and right involves that from time to time you need to examine your law, legal principles. If required, amendment has to be done. From time to time, institutions, you need to work on the system, institution, in terms of structure, the rules and procedures, or better training of the persons occupying, the members of that institution, their morale, their motivation, improvement in their level of professional competence, the changes, desirable changes in progressive changes in their behavioral orientation. Then you need to keep a watch on the developments taking place in the external environment. So it means legal system to be improved, has to be improved. Administrative institutions are to be made more competent, more professional in approach, more efficient, more effective. You have to work on structure, you have to work on procedure, you have to work on the behavior of those who run that system. Okay, and then you go to the external environment. All such things are required to be taken care of from time to time. Then administration of justice becomes possible. You keep a watch on the developments taking place around, rising will and aspirations of the society, new kinds of problems or challenges which the society is facing. Wherever it is found that some new developments are taking place, undesirable, but it falls beyond the purview of law, the new law is required to be enacted to catch hold of that. Or sometimes it is found that the prevailing or existing legal system does not converge with the full scope of legal system, fails to converge with the full scope of the problems or challenges being faced by the society, then things are required to be improved, required to be amended. So keep a watch on the legal system and the institutions, keep a watch on the changes taking place in the environment. And in the context of increasingly globalizing world, today we can say that administration of justice is not merely confined to what is happening and what we want to do within the country. Boundaries are porous. So we are influencing others and we are getting influenced by others. So we need to ensure in this world we are living in a global village. It means we have to match up with the global standards. In the Committee of Nations, when you sit in the Committee of Nations and you affect others, you get affected by others, then global norms are also required to be taken care of. Today, when you enact a law and you deal with the rights of children or rights of women, so as far as possible, such law is required to be accommodative of the global concern as well. Because the government of India may have signed a number of treaties or agreements or international covenants, lot many things are there. So therefore, in contemporary world, administration of justice becomes far more challenging, that you have to take care of the developments within the country and then outside the country. Lot many things are there. So this is the institution and the processes by which justice is done. This is the administration of justice. Administration of justice advantages and disadvantages. Very simple: uniformity and consistency in law. So, administration of justice, when justice is done through the management of the system, the processes, you follow certain legal principles, laws, so as to ensure that behavior is respectable. So, that brings, administration of justice following a particular path, it brings uniformity and in law. So, when justice is done in keeping with the established legal principles, rules, and procedures, then over a period of time, things get systematized, things get properly institutionalized, and that brings a kind of uniformity and consistency in law. Because all the judges, they apply the same laws to deal with the similar situation, so that brings an element of uniformity and consistency. Then collective wisdom, administration of justice under rule of law. And rule of law, the law carries the collective wisdom of the society. So the law carries collective wisdom of society, which enjoys precedence over the wisdom, knowledge, and rationality of an individual. So advantage, the first is uniformity and consistency in law. If justice is not done, by whims and fancies, any judge, any person, whenever anyone who is sitting in the position of authority, administering justice as per his personal or subjective notion of right and wrong. When administration of justice is done under rule of law, so it brings uniformity, consistency, and it also signifies that collective wisdom enjoys precedence over the individual rationality and wisdom. Then you have consistent application over a period of time. The consistency in the application of law, legal principles make the judicial behavior far more, stable, far more predictable. So that brings a kind of stability. That tends to bring some kind of stability in the society, that people know that in this kind of case, in this kind of cases, this kind of treatment is or this kind of judgment can be delivered, by the members of judiciary. So you always have consistent application. Then you have a regulation of conduct. When people are aware of law, the legal principles, they are aware of how the justice is being administered, what are the legal principles being followed by the judges. So over a period of time, they tend to regulate their conduct so as to avoid catching hold of by law. So that brings a kind of regulation of conduct of one's own behavior, and that brings stability in society. So administration of justice overall, what is the gist of all these points? Administration of justice and the rule of law, it tends to bring uniformity, it tends to bring certainty, in the behavior of the members of judiciary or the members of bureaucracy, those in the larger context, those who are involved in administering justice, some kind of consistency and a far more stable equation of relationship between the government machinery on the one hand, including judiciary, and the society on the other. Point is clear? So behavior becomes predictable, it becomes certain. Clear? And then you have disadvantages. With advantages comes disadvantages. Whenever the limit is crossed, so what is advantageous, it becomes disadvantageous. नीति अनीति बन जाती है अपनी सीमा पार करने के बाद. धर्म अधर बन जाता है अगर अति हो जाए तो, सीमा पार करने के बाद. बैलेंस. So administration of justice, ये advantages, and now you have disadvantages. Why? Because administrative justice, we have discussed that management of the system, processes for the exercise of authority, application of rules, regulation, for what? For the enforcement of law. For what? To ensure that justice is done. For these institutions, process, rules, regulation, over a period of time, they tend to become, sometimes they end up becoming a liability, because it happens that your structure, institutions, rules and procedures may not change and evolve with the same pace as the society evolves. Means society is changing very fast, but the means and mechanism for administration of justice is not moving, is not evolving with the same pace. To that extent, that rigidity happens, and that leads to friction between the institutions of the government system of the administration of justice on the one hand and society on the other. Very often it tends to bring that much of rigidity. If the government is very progressive and judiciary is also very much progressive and dynamic, then to a great extent they breach such gap. Judiciary through progressive and liberal interpretation of law and constitution, and government through the enactment of new laws or amendment of the existing law from time to time, to a great extent remove the hindrances, can remove the limitations arising from the factor of time and place. So they can keep their law, administrative, means and mechanism, up to date and capable of responding to the contemporary challenges. But that requires a lot of dynamism. The government has to be very active, proactive. So you have rigidity and then you have technicalities and formalities. Sometimes the soul of justice is strangulated. Why? In the name of administration of justice, we develop a very complex set of institutions, rules, regulations. It's all the rules, regulations, complex procedures, technically complex language, jargons, all put together. It creates a lot of problem for Aam Aadmi Con people. They fail to understand what exactly is happening with them. What they are supposed to do, what they are not supposed to do. So language and the rules, procedure, everything becomes so much complex that from Aam Aadmi Con people become totally dependent on their advocate. They got dependent on the more educated members of the society. So you have technicalities and formalities associated with the administration of justice. Sometimes it happens that things are amply clear in front of you. सब कुछ clear है. उसके बावजूद भी it takes a lot of time to administer justice. जॉली LLB में देखे थे आप, उसने उस फिल्म एक सीन है जिसमें जज साहब क्या कहते हैं, मुझे पहले दिन ही पता होता है कि किसने क्या किया या नहीं किया, कुछ ऐसा ही था, और मैं सिर्फ इंतज़ार कर रहा होता हूँ कि वो वकील जो है वो सही एविडेंस वगैरह ला करके रखे जिससे वो जजमेंट सुनाए. तो कई बार क्या होता है कि पता होता है, साफ साफ दिख रहा है, लेकिन रूल्स प्रोसीजर्स ऐसे हैं दैट यू हैव टू फॉलो. एंड समटाइम्स बाय द टाइम यू कंफर्म टू रूल्स, रेगुलेशन, मेथड, प्रोसेस, इट टेक्स ऑफ टाइम. तारीख के बाद तारीख फिल्मों में है ना डायलॉग ऐसा, वो दामनी फिल्म में था, तारीख पे तारीख. वो रूल्स प्रोसीजर सब फॉलो कर रहे हैं, तब तक जस्टिस जो है आप उसका गला घोट देते हैं. तो ये सब चीज़ें, ये कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ जस्टिस, दैट इज़ वेरी मच चैलेंजिंग, दैट यू हैव टू मेंटेन दैट सिस्टम such a way the system is well developed and advanced, sophisticated, capable of dealing with the contemporary problems and challenges without being so much complex that it ends up becoming a liability. There should be a net advantage. The things are managed in such a way. अगर बहुत ज़्यादा सिस्टम को सिंपल बनाने की कोशिश करेंगे तो उससे कुछ गलत हो सकता है. आप पूरी तरह से किसी सब्जेक्ट मैटर को एग्जामिन नहीं कर पाएंगे, उसकी वजह से इनजस्टिस हो सकता है. और कभी कभी आपने बहुत ज़्यादा ही कॉम्प्लेक्स बना दिया तो भी जस्टिस की जगह पे इनजस्टिस कर बैठेंगे. सो दैट्स वाई बैलेंस इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी स्ट्रक. ठीक है. देन यू हैव कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी, द सोसाइटी, राइजिंग नीड्स एंड एस्पिरेशंस एंड द complexity of society, and accordingly the system associated with the administration of justice is required to be developed. That also make the things very much complex. So complexity of society, complexity of the system. A lot of friction takes place. Sometimes the system fails to, or in most of the cases it happens, it fails to meet the aspirations of society. Then we start looking for simplification of things. Then you have unintended consequences. Sometimes it happens for administration of justice, you enact a law, you amend a law, you apply, you amend the existing system, or you develop a new system, but sometimes you are exposed to the kind of consequences which you had never anticipated, and it was you never intended to do all such things. आप देखोगे लॉ जो है आपके सिटीजनशिप अमेंडमेंट एक्ट, ठीक है, वो या फार्म लॉज वगैरह थे, उसमें कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस क्या है, वो जो गवर्नमेंट का इंटेंशन नहीं था. समटाइम्स इट हैपन्स दैट द लीगल सिस्टम दैट यू हैव डेवलप्ड टू डिलीवर जस्टिस टू द सोसाइटी, दैट सिस्टम इटसेल्फ बिकम द सोर्स ऑफ इनजस्टिस. ठीक है. आपने रूल्स, प्रोसीजर्स और इन सबको ऐसा बना रखा है, आपने जिस इंस्टीट्यूशन को आपने ऑथोराइज़ किया है, जिसके ऊपर आपने पावर अथॉरिटी कन्फर की है, वो इंस्टीट्यूशन ही अपने पावर अथॉरिटी को इस ढंग से यूज़ कर रहा है कि जस्टिस की जगह पे वो इनजस्टिस कर बैठता है. So administration of justice, sometimes it happens, these are the disadvantages. Things become so much complex, and to administer justice you confer so much of authority and power on the institutions, agencies and the members of such institutions and agencies that instead of doing justice they end up doing injustice. Why? By exercising authority for personal aggrandizement rather than the larger interest of the society. So these are the disadvantages of administration of justice. But still, we always try to ensure that benefit from the administration of justice, merit outweighs, the demerits. So net advantage is in favor of the society, and that's why we continue with the same. But gradually in the course of time, what is expected of the government is to work on the strength and to gradually diffuse these limitations as far as possible, to make the system very much efficient, very much effective, capable of converging the full scope of the challenges, problems of society, and still remaining simple. This is not so easy. Simplism is the ultimate sophistication, it is said. Simplism is the ultimate sophistication, but that simplism is so much difficult to achieve, to accomplish. This is the challenge regarding administration of justice. लोग बहुत लंबे लंबे समय तक इंतजार नहीं करना चाहते हैं, because justice delayed is justice denied, is established principle. So this is about administration of justice. A just society, more than anything, constitute the foundation of administration of justice. And this is another way to look at the things, that we talk about institutions, we talk about power, authority, jurisdiction, rules, procedures, but in reality, administration of justice thrives not so much on institutions, agencies, rules and laws. Apparently it appears that they are doing it, they are administering justice, there is no doubt about that. But in the core, the entire edifice of administration of justice rests heavily on the sense of justice that you see in that society. If the sense of justice of the society is very poor, very bad in that society, it is difficult to expect that the administration of justice to be taken care of properly. Okay, so therefore, more than anything, a just society, more than anything, constitutes the foundation of administration of society. If the society is just, कुछ गलत अगर होता है, समाज के सब लोग जो हैं, इन जनरल एक समाज जो है उसकी समाज वहाँ एजुकेशन की सोसाइटी में किसी सोसाइटी का एजुकेशन बहुत अच्छे तरीके से हुआ है, सोसाइटी एक लंबे समय इवॉल्व हुई ऑन मैच्योर लाइन्स, पीपल आर वेरी मच अवेयर ऑफ देयर राइट्स एंड देयर ड्यूटी कॉन्शियस एज वेल. इस ढंग का समाज जहाँ पे लोग ड्यूटी कॉन्शियस है, जहाँ के लोगों का सेंस ऑफ जस्टिस अच्छा है, वो अच्छे एजुकेशन की वजह से हो या उनके बहुत ही प्रोग्रेसिव वैल्यू सिस्टम की वजह से हो, अगर सोसाइटी का कलेक्टिव सेंस ऑफ जस्टिस अगर बहुत अच्छा है तो उस सोसाइटी में एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ जस्टिस के भी बहुत ही एफिशिएंट और इफेक्टिव होने की संभावना बढ़ती है. अगर सोसाइटी में ही अगर इस ढंग की व्यवस्था है कि लोग इनजस्टिस के खिलाफ आवाज़ नहीं उठाते हैं, हर एक व्यक्ति अपने नैरो इंटरेस्ट के बारे में ही सोचता है, तो वहाँ पर एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ जस्टिस अगर बहुत एफिशिएंट भी नहीं है तो लोगों को फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता है. इसलिए एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ जस्टिस हैज़ टू डू अ लॉट विद द सेंस ऑफ जस्टिस दैट प्रिवेल इन सोसाइटी. That society that provide the foundation, that is actually the reservoir where from you collect input and then the throughput and then justice delivered output. Judges do not come from heaven. Institutions related with administration of justice, they don't come from heaven, they come from the same society. If the society has a very poor sense of justice, then what will happen to such institutions and members of such institutions? So therefore, a just society more than anything constitute the foundation of administration of justice. Quality education, awareness, better value system, there are a lot many things. Long-term and short-term measures can be taken up by the government to ensure that society evolves on a very progressive and mature lines, and that will constitute the foundation, in the real sense, that will constitute the foundation of administration of justice. And a just society is the one which has evolved so as to become naturally disposed to the principles of fairness and reasonableness. A just society, मतलब एक सोसाइटी जो है उसमें reasonableness and fairness के लिए वो naturally disposed है. You don't need to focus much on सबको रटाना और सबको पढ़ाना. You have to behave like this. No, people are, to a great extent, they are naturally disposed to do the rightful things and reasonable things. ठीक है, so they are naturally disposed not to do something wrong. It's quite obvious. ये जब मेरा नहीं है तो मैं इसे क्यों रखूँगा? मोबाइल फ़ोन गिर गया किसी का, उसको उठाया, उसको दे दिए. लेकिन ऐसा होगा नहीं. आप सब ने एक्सपीरियंस किया होगा कि हम लोग जहाँ रहते हैं, मोबाइल फ़ोन अगर आपका गिर गया तो क्या चांसेस हैं कि कोई फ़ोन करके मोबाइल फ़ोन आपको वापस करेगा? ठीक है, और बातें बहुत बड़ी बड़ी हैं, तो ध्यान तो देना पड़ेगा. और एक सोसाइटी ऐसी भी हो सकती है जहाँ के लोग बहुत बिल्कुल नेचुरल डिस्पोज्ड हैं कि वो गलत नहीं करते हैं, कि भाई ये तो सीधे सीधे न्याय की बात है, भाई जो चीज़ जिसकी है उसको दी जाएगी, ये क्यों तुम रखोगे अपने पास? क्लियर क्लैरिटी है इसमें. नेचुरली डिस्पोज्ड. आप अच्छे हैं इसलिए क्योंकि डिटरेंस ऑफ लॉ, तो ये बहुत अच्छे नहीं हुए। आप अच्छे इसलिए हैं क्योंकि आप नेचुरली डिस्पोज, इस ढंग से ही आपकी परवरिश हुई है, इस ढंग से ही आपने चीज़ों को देखा है, समझा है और जाना है। तो you are positively, you know, naturally disposed, positively placed to do what is reasonable and what is good. Reasonableness has its own appeal. Again, the given situation, it is required to be examined. मतलब लॉ लीगल सिस्टम हम लोग इसलिए डेवलप करते हैं कि टू अ ग्रेट एक्सटेंट थिंग्स बिकम सिंपलर फॉर दोज हु आर सपोज टू बिहेव इन रीजनेबल मैनर। तो लॉ के अंदर सारे क्लॉजेस वगैरह सब कुछ दिए हुए हैं, आपको बस को फॉलो करना है, एंड रीजनेबलनेस एंड फेयरनेस विल बी अकॉम्प्लिश्ड ऑन इट्स ओन। यू विल नॉट हैव टू टैक्स योर माइंड सो मच। दैट्स व्हाई वी हैव रूल ऑफ लॉ। द law carries that collective wisdom, knowledge, that element of reasonableness and fairness, and it is expected of the person sitting in the position of authority to just enforce that law with the right intent and the letter and spirit as it has been explained under law. Then administration of justice becomes possible. Administration of justice is a collective enterprise. It's a collective enterprise in the broader context. I hope the point is clear. Thank you.